Hello, welcome to my new video. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I have moved to Japan. And today I want to talk about how I studied Japanese in Japan. Before I came here, I had studied Japanese in Finland for about 2 years. So because of that, I expected that I would be able to communicate in everyday life situations in Japan. But I was so wrong. Like, I have so big communication problems. I cannot speak almost anything. I cannot understand almost anything. Like, it's so frustrating because I have been studying Japanese for 2 years, so you would expect that I would have no this kind of problems, right? I think that the problem is that back in Finland, my studies were focused on grammar and reading and writing and taking the JLPT test, and I didn't really never speak any Japanese. And this is the big mistake I made in Finland, and I think that the 2 years I spent in Finland studying Japanese didn't really help me at all now when I am in Japan. I go to Japanese language school and I study there every day for 5 days a week, and it might sound good, but it doesn't mean that you will learn to speak Japanese and communicate in Japanese. So after I came to Japan, I changed my study method into more practical one in order to be able to communicate in Japanese. So today in this video, I want to talk about how I study Japanese in Japan in order to be able to communicate in Japanese. So if you are coming to Japan for like holiday or for studies or for anything, I think this video might have some good tips for you, how you would prepare yourself for the real life Japanese. First of all, if you are new to Japanese, I recommend you to study hiragana and katakana. They are like the Japanese alphabets and they are the basic of the language. Hiragana, katakana and kanji can be seen all the places in Japan. And if you don't study them, you cannot understand anything around you. It takes only a couple of days to study hiragana and katakana, so I think you should just do it. Personally, when I studied hiragana and katakana and now when I'm studying kanji, I prefer using pen and paper to practice writing them. And actually, according to studies, writing by hand connects the hand gestures with the brain and helps with remembering. There are also many apps out there, and after I had studied hiragana and katakana by writing them by hand, I used some apps to review them in order not to forget them. My weakest point in studying Japanese is remembering vocabulary, and I think that it's one of the biggest problems for me in communicating in Japanese, because how you can communicate in Japanese if you don't have any vocabulary to use. I took the JLPT N4 level test last year, and I can understand a lot, but when the communication situation hits, I cannot remember any words, like the words aren't in my active memory. So I cannot use them by myself. I can understand them when I heard them or when I read them, but I cannot myself use them. So finding a good way to study new vocabulary is really important. Lately I have been using MochiMochi app to study kanji and vocabulary. It has a unique feature called golden time. Golden time means the moment right before you forget your vocabulary, and it's based on the spaced repetition method. If you review your vocabulary at that time, it helps you to remember the vocabulary easier. The app will remind you to review at the perfect time when your brain is about to forget the vocabulary, so the learning is more effective. MochiMochi arranges vocabulary and kanji according to your memorization level. This way you can see how many words you have learned and the memorization level of each word. There are 5 different memorization levels. As you study with the app, the vocabulary you know moves to the higher level. Level 1 means new words, and level 5 means long-term memory. This app is a very easy way to study, and you have to use the app only for about 10 minutes a day. What I love the most and the reason why I prefer using this app is that MochiMochi has a diversity of different vocabulary and not only JLPT list. All the vocabulary is divided into small topics, so the learning feels more practical. That makes this app ideal for both beginner and a more advanced student. In addition to the JLPT vocabulary, there are specified vocabulary such as basic conversation, IT, service, nursing, and so on. For example, I think the service vocabulary is very useful, and I hope I had known about this app before I moved to Japan. so I could have practiced the service vocabulary in advance and actually understand something when I came to Japan. Because when I came here and went to the company for the first time, I was in a big shock because I had expected that after studying Japanese for about 2 years, I would understand what the shop assistant speaks, but no, I couldn't even get the plastic bag. So if you are planning on coming to Japan, I think MochiMochi is a must-have for you if you want to prepare for real-life situations. I think that MochiMochi is great for studying because when I get a notification from the app, I know that it's a golden time. And golden time means it's the best time for my brain to study, and all I have to do is open the app and take a couple of minutes to review the vocabulary and kanji. Here you can see what I'm studying at the moment, and these are the levels. As you can see, I have about 20 words in level 5, which means that all these words are in my long-term memory. And level 1 is all the new words and the words that I have a hard time remembering. If I click the notebook, I can see all the words I am studying at the moment. MochiMochi has over 6,000 vocabulary and kanji, and I love that they are divided into these topics, so the studying feels more practical. Like even the JLPT words are divided into topics, so it doesn't feel like you are only studying for the test, but you are also studying for the real life. I love tracking my study progress, and I think that MochiMochi is perfect for it. If you would like to use this app, I will put the link down in the comments. Thank you MochiMochi for supporting me and sponsoring this video. Another important skill in order to be able to communicate in Japanese is listening skill. I started to listen to Japanese podcasts and watch and listen to Japanese TV every day. I don't understand everything, but my ears get used to the language and its passive learning, and instead of listening to music on my way to the station or on the train, I use the time to listening Japanese podcasts. I think it's easy way to add some learning into your day if you are busy. Speaking in Japanese is my big weak point, and although I know Japanese, I just can't speak in real life situation. That is because speaking is a very different skill compared to only studying grammar with your textbooks. Studying and practicing pronunciation is easy because with apps like MochiMochi, you can also hear how the words sound and listen and repeat them by yourself. But if you want to be able to communicate in Japanese, I think you have to be able to think in Japanese. And how I do it is that lately I have started to reflect on any Japanese communication situations that happened during the day. I think in my mind my mistakes and what I should have said and so on. For example, one day I went shopping with my boyfriend and both of us had put the same item in the shopping basket, even though we only wanted to buy one. I tried to say that we only want to buy one. At that moment I did not remember how to say only one in Japanese, and I said ichido dake. The correct way would have been hitotsu dake. This way I can learn from my mistakes, and the next time the same situation happens, I'm more prepared for it. Or one time I went to buy some clothes, and after I had tried on some clothes, the seller asked me how they were, and I just said korekaimasu because I couldn't say anything else. Back home I reflected on the situation and thought about what more I would have said. This kind of communication problems happens to me all the time, so this is a great way to learn from my mistakes. In addition to reflecting my communication problems, I also look back at my day and think in my mind how to describe my day if someone were to ask me. I take a moment to think in my mind how I would explain my day in Japanese and check grammar points and some words in a dictionary if I don't know them. This helps me to learn to speak more about myself and again prepares for a real life situation. Even though you don't live in Japan yet, thinking about your days in Japanese or thinking about how to say something in Japanese is a great exercise that helps you to think and speak in Japanese. This has been the most significant thing in my new study routine, and I hope I had started it back in Finland before coming to Japan. I also recommend for speaking practice shadowing method. It basically means that you repeat or imitate an audio just after you heard it. Shadowing helps to improve pronunciation, intonation, and vocabulary. I actually have a great book that uses shadowing method, but I left it back in Finland, so I cannot show it to you now, but I linked the book down below in case you want to check it out. So this is how I study Japanese nowadays, and after I had started with these new methods, I'm starting to feel a lot more confident in speaking in Japanese, and I hope that maybe you got some new ideas how to study Japanese and you can bring your Japanese to the next level. Thank you for watching and see you. Bye bye!